It is a hell of a card. Oh, Joe, I love this show. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm going to hit you guys with the betting odds, at least as they are on bestfightodds.com. I shouldn't give them the free plug, but here we go.
I was just going to say, I can't believe you just did that.
Yeah. Bevon Lewis, a minus 235. Darren Stewart, a plus 195. You have Eddie Wineland, the veteran, minus 130. Favored against Grigory Popov, a plus 110. And as far as people who you don't know on the show, it pretty much ends there, Joe. Yep. Angela Hill, a plus 170, taking on Jan, a minus 200. I mean, people know who Eddie Wineland is. I believe he competed for – did he compete for the UFC bantamweight interim title at one point?
I think WEC.
I thought that he had – either way.
Yeah.
Either way. Otherwise – man, this is a loaded show. Yeah, he competed against Barao for the interim title.
Okay, there we go.
In Toronto. Well, how did you not know, Joe?
Dude, I've seen thousands of fights. It's a big blur to me right now.
Good point. Yeah. Anything here you're particularly looking at?
I think you got to put 5 on Grigory Popov. Right? I mean, of all those, Angela Hill at plus 170, may want to put 5 on her, but she, again, my only knock on Angela, it's not even a knock, it's just an assessment analysis, is she's never been able to sit down on her punches and be able to generate that power. I don't know if it's a physique thing. I don't know if it's the way she's been throwing the punches, but, Jan's tough. Jan's tough, and it'll be a difficult fight for Angela, but in looking at Eddie Wineland, a favorite over Popov, and, Wineland's experience may prove that I'm wrong, but maybe you want to put 5 on Popov.
Oh boy, this show, Joe. So here's the thing. I don't really take a great look at these until the week of, because why?
Yeah, it's so much stuff going on.
Joanne Calderwood, a minus 110. Caitlin Chikagian, a minus 110. A pick'em right where I think it should be. I'm not expecting this to be an exciting fight, but this is a top shelf women's flyweight fight. And if Joanne Calderwood wins, I think she has to be in the conversation for a title shot very soon. This is a division which should have existed a long time ago, and she should have got that opportunity. But if she beats Chikagian, I think she's right there, and I think she can get it done.
It's a good fight. It's a really good fight, number 2 versus number 6. And like you said, if number 6, Joanne Calderwood, wins, what do? Right? She's got name value. She's definitely got name value. Does she get the shot against the winner of Shevchenko? Right? So, yeah.
Like I said, man, I'm getting giddy about some of these fights. Alexa Grasso, plus 110. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, a minus 130. It seems like some of these people fought like 3 weeks ago, and they're already back on the show. Yeah. They're already back on the show. Another great women's fight. I think Grasso could pull it off, but Kowalkiewicz, man, she is hardly an easy out, Joe.
Yeah. I think Carolina will win this fight, though. I think she'll win this fight. But against Grasso, you just got to make sure, because Carolina suffered some knockouts, man. She got hurt by Andrade, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like
she hasn't had a great performance in a while. I mean, last year against Herrig, she squeaked one out. Yeah. And I think that Grasso is probably a little bit better than Herrig at this point.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun fight. I'm really looking forward to it. But you got to. If you're Carolina, you cannot afford to lose this fight whatsoever.
Yeah, if you lose 3 in a row in this division,
big trouble.
You are in big trouble. Now, the thing is, she's got the win over Rose Namajunas, and that speaks pretty highly, but she's got the loss to Jessica Andrade, and it was a very recent loss to Jessica Andrade. She's just trying to hang on in this division, man. Yeah. If she loses it, do you see her maybe giving flyweight a
go? If she loses, I mean, look at who she's lost to. She's lost to, former champ, current champ, top number 1 contender, and Michelle Waterson was a decision, right? Yeah. So it's a tough go, but losing 3 in a row, you got to figure she might have to move to 125. But it's 125. It seems like every time someone competes at 125, or there's more competition at 125, we start looking at the division and thinking who can actually stack up against one another. She may have a hard time in this division, although there's some of the girls in there that are cutting down from 135. Ooh, they're going to be tough matchups for her.
Aljamain Sterling versus Pedro Munoz is on this card. Joe, this is a dream. Why they stack this so much?
listen, when sometimes the stars align, right? This is how every let's stop for a second. Stop.
Yeah,
Stop.
you're right. You're
Breathe.
right. You're 100% right. I know where you're going.
Every damn UFC event should look like this. And you only do that if you keep the top echelon of fighters per division. When you do not, you start getting cards like what happened in Sweden, where we're just like, who are half of these people? That should not be something the UFC should ever have anyone talking about. And we're people that cover this every single week. Daily, we're paying attention to this. We talk about it every single week. We should never, ever, us too, should never saying, I don't know that, whatever, blah, I don't remember that guy or that girl competing. Every event should look like this.
I know almost every fighter who was in the UFC 10 years ago. I don't know every fighter who's in the UFC now, and I cover it.
Yeah.
That's wild. This fight has 12. This card has 12 fights on it. But like, I look at next week's Moicano versus Korean Zombie show in South Carolina, and I'm like, man, that show could have used 2 of these fights really badly.
Yeah.
If you would have thrown Aljamain Sterling and Pedro Munoz on that show, and you would have thrown Tatiana Suarez versus Nina Ansaroff on next week's show, you'd be talking about back-to-back weeks of pretty stacked shows.
Yeah.
Oh, and they could have afforded to lose more than that. Aljamain Sterling against Pedro Munoz. This is a big-time bantamweight fight. Like, we're talking about a couple of guys who are probably competing for a title shot, Joe. And there's 2 of these fights on the prelims that are probably for a title fight. There might be 3 if you include Joanne Calderwood.
Yeah.
Holy crap, we got 3 fights that, I mean, you can't say Chookagian's in a title eliminator. This is one of the most stacked, under-the-radar UFC shows I have seen since we've covered this. It's easily top 3 or 5, but there's no, like, headline marquee star. Munoz versus Sterling, I'm done heaping praise on the evil UFC machine. Who do you think gets this one done? Sterling's won 5 of his last 6. Munoz is a wrecking machine. He's won 7 of his last 8. How do you see it going?
Well, when you're coming off a victory over Cody Garbrandt, in less than a round, your confidence is probably at an all-time high. Although we all discussed before and afterwards, Cody Garbrandt's got to stop playing fire with fire. His chin can't take it right now. So Munoz is coming off a really crazy high right now. And then, of course, you got Aljamain Sterling, who just, he's a blue-collar fighter, right? Wins over Jimmie Rivera, Cody Stamann, and Brett Johns, in the last, 3 fights?
Yeah.
This is, and he's only lost to Marlon Moraes, and that was, you're going to lose to Marlon Moraes who's fighting for the title. This is a good fight, man. I don't know who's going to take it, but it's going to be a close one. And one mistake, Aljamain better cover that jaw. He better keep that jaw covered and be very, very careful when he's clinching as well. So, yeah.
You know what I'm doing if I'm these 2 fellas, Joe?
Talk to me.
Showing up on championship weight.
That's a very good point.
If you're ever in the situation where you are not even in contention, if you are the same weight as somebody fighting for a title on that show, you show up at championship weight in case Marlon Moraes or Henry Cejudo slip on a banana peel, especially in this situation, Joe, because there is no champion. They don't have to create an interim. Okay, well, Henry Cejudo can't go. Marlon Moraes can't go. All right, one of you 2 go. Title fight, more than qualified. As Joseph Boza says, if you're Caitlin and JoJo, I'd also show up on championship weight. You damn right. Especially Joanne Calderwood. Show up on championship weight on that night. So many great fights on this show, and one of them I am almost most excited for. Tatianna Suarez, Nina Ansaroff. Nina Ansaroff, a career resurgence, but Tatianna Suarez is a minus 900.
Yeah.
Ansaroff a plus 600. I think that line is ridiculous. Do I think Suarez is going to win? Yes, probably handedly. She is very, very good. I think she is going to dominate across pro, amateur, and I think tough. She is 12-0. She just smokes people. She's beaten J.J. Aldridge, Viviane Pereira, Grasso, Esparza. However, Nina Ansaroff, probably originally best known for her very successful, I don't know, fiance, girlfriend. I think it's fiance Amanda Nunes, but she's beating she's beating people. And, oh, Joe, she's not just beating people. She's beating Claudia Gadelha. You don't get there by some sort of streak of luck. You beat Claudia Gadelha because you're very good. She's 4-0. This is a title eliminator, and Ansaroff deserves it. I think Suarez is going to smoke her, though.
Winner gets title shot, loser gets Rose Namajunas.
I think that sounds fair. I think it sounds fair, and it's a smart idea.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Tatianna Suarez does win this fight, and I think she poses a threat to Jessica Andrade as well. First, you got to get through Ansaroff, who some way, somehow finds these little victories here and there that we're not really expecting, and she's training with the best fighter in the world, who happens to be her fiance, right? So, if you can start learning by osmosis, not just by training, Ansaroff could surprise a lot of us as we head into this fight here, and her future. But on paper, looking at this fight, Tatianna Suarez should emerge victorious.
Man, this show. Blagoy Ivanov, a plus 125. Tai Tuivasa, a minus 145. Considering Ivanov's trajectory since he's joined the UFC, I maybe wouldn't have put him on the main card, but I get it because it's Tai Tuivasa.
Yeah.
This is not a better fight than a couple of them that we've spoken about on the prelims, though, in my estimation. I think that Ivanov can beat Tuivasa, but there hasn't been a lot to show me that he will. I mean, it's a really weird one. I mean, Tuivasa just lost for the first time, and I'm really interested to see how he responds to that loss, Joe. But Blagoy Ivanov is a guy who's been competing at a high level since really around the time that Tuivasa even started to train.
Yeah.
How do you think this one goes?
Well, I think you're smart about the assessment that both of these guys, their last losses were Junior Dos Santos. Okay, Blagoy went the distance with Junior, whereas Tai Tuivasa did not. He just fought the way he's always fought. Now, you said you're interested to see how he comes back after that loss. Yeah, is he still going to be aggressive? Is he still going to be just guns a-blaring? Let's see who stands up, who the last man standing is, or is he now going to be a bit more calculated and cerebral in this fight versus a veteran that'll pick you apart if need be? If you don't knock him out early, he doesn't go away, right? And with Tuivasa, you got to make sure that you're keeping your distance from him, because this guy will put you to sleep real quick. I know he went the distance with Arlovski, okay, but it's a different fighter than Arlovski, so I like where the odds are. I'm leaning towards Tuivasa. I just think what's happening here is that we're more than likely going to see a calculated fight by both of these guys. Ivanov isn't the type of guy that'll knock you out until he sees the opportunity to do so, whereas Tai Tuivasa might start off strong and then realize real quick, if I can't knock this guy out, I got to play this smart.
Jimmie Rivera, a plus 250. Peter Yan, a minus 300. I think this is a really smart fight for them to book. I have no clue why it's on the main card over Sterling Munoz. Does that make any sense to you?
I think it's just sometimes when they book these fights or they put these fights together and put them on the television portion versus the pay-per-view portion, it's to build excitement, to get the excitement factor going and carry it into the pay-per-view. People will order the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I guess so. And it's such a stacked show on the main card anyway. Peter Yan, 4-0 in the UFC, just beat John Dodson, taking on Jimmie Rivera, who is trying to retain his place in the division. Not so easy to do when you've lost 2 of your last 3. Oh, by the way, since last June, he's also lost 2 fights, those being to Marlon Moraes and Aljamain Sterling, who could factor in huge this division. So if you are Jimmie Rivera, you're hoping Henry Cejudo wins. You're hoping Pedro Munoz wins because, oh, by the way, he's beaten Pedro Munoz before. That's a situation that's got to happen. And you got to beat Peter Yan, who looks to be, I don't want to say an unstoppable prospect, but a damn big prospect along the way. And he is a healthy underdog, is Jimmie Rivera.
Yeah, and I like Jimmie Rivera in this fight, right? I really do, but it's an easier fight to sell in general. You walk into an establishment, you walk into a bar, you walk into a restaurant, you walk into your friend's house, you're just tuning in for the very first time, you're sort of a casual UFC fan, and all of a sudden you see on your screen it's number 7 versus number 9. This fight means something. This is a fight that means something. And then you go up and down the Stockholm card and you start looking at some of these fights, and you walk in and turn a TV on and you look and you're like, I don't know who half these people are. There's no number next to their name. What does this fight actually mean? So this is a good fight here between Rivera and Peter Yan. You could sell this fight to anybody that tunes in because you know there's ramifications here. The winner either keeps his spot at number 7 or 7 and 9, I believe. And the loser, if it's Jimmie Rivera, may get replaced in his placement on the rankings. It's a fight that means something at 135 pounds. So I like it, yes. But I am leaning towards Jimmie Rivera.
I thought that was it's a good fight to book. I don't know if it's a good fight to book on the main card. I would swap this with the Munoz Sterling fight because I think that rankings should matter and it should mean something in that regard. And trajectory should matter as well. Now, it is a bit wild because Jimmie Rivera is number 7, and it seems like forever he's been like number 1 or 2, taking on number 9. Meanwhile, in the prelims, you have number 3 versus number 4. It's just wild. It's wild. Calvin Kattar, a -160. Ricardo Lamas, a +140. Harry Kettle of Fightful MMA spoke to Ricardo Lamas. This is a very close fight. Another one I'm a little bit surprised got main card billing, or unless maybe I'm just reading something wrong. Yeah, or no, it is on the prelims. My bad. So this one snuck in on the prelims. Ricardo Lamas, a guy who's been around forever, has competed for the featherweight championship. He had a big win over Darren Elkins, and that was a real big win. But now he's facing Calvin Kattar, who is still on the emergence a little bit, 1-3 of 4. How do you see this one?
This is a good fight as well. It's a rankings fight. It means something. I think Kattar's, well, I shouldn't say Kattar's going to pull this off. It's a good fight. Lamas wants to prove once again that he's worth competing for that title. He's got to go on a run. But visually speaking, again, you walk into a bar, television, and you turn it on, Sean, you look at the graphics, and you see 10 versus 15. I don't like that look. I do like 10, but don't put nothing under number 15. So this guy's defending the top 10, right?
Yeah.
That's what he's doing. Lamas is defending the top 10. He's got to win this fight to prevent this guy who we know is at number 15, but a casual viewer might not see that number and say, this guy cannot take my spot at top 10. It's a big fight. It's a big fight when you think about it. People outside of MMA know top 10s. They don't know top 15s. When you watch SportsCenter, they don't do the top 15. They do the top 10. Right? So maybe ESPN should be talking to the UFC and be like, keep everything top 10 and not top 15.
Yeah, the irony being that Fox were the ones who wanted the rankings and then wanted them expanded to make fighters seem more important.
Yeah.
Donald Cerrone, a +125. Tony Ferguson, a -145. Joe, you could have told me this was the main event of the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I could have just excluded the 2 title fights and made a pay-per-view card out of the what's left. This is a hell of a fight. This is a top-notch, top-flight fight that I didn't know that we were going to ever see out of Donald Cerrone again. About a year and a half ago, it looked like maybe those days were behind him. Not so much. He looks great since he's had his kid, and he has the tools to beat Tony Ferguson. He has the tools to beat anybody. These are 2 of the most well-rounded yet sometimes reckless fighters in the UFC, which is making for one of the most interesting matchups possible.
Yeah. I mean, you take a look at this up and down, you look at their records, you look at what they've done recently. I know Tony hasn't fought since October 2018. It's been a while, it's been 8-9 months, but he's still a top guy that had gold wrapped around his waist before this whole debacle went down. So, my heart says Donald Cerrone. Nothing would make me happier than Donald Cerrone emerging victorious in this fight here and potentially getting, en route to either A, that Conor fight, or B, some sort of title fight eventually, or some sort of showdown with. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank right now. I'll tell you in 2 seconds. Don't leave me now. But a big fight, if he can't get the title fight with Justin Gaethje. Okay, I mean Cerrone got Justin Gaethje, but this is a fight now where with Dustin fighting Khabib and Tony fighting Donald. This is a title eliminator. Let's be honest for a second. All right, Donald deserves the paydays. He's fought for the title before. Those title fights didn't look the greatest. Well, my heart says Cerrone. My head says Tony Ferguson.
Up next, a flyweight championship fight. Jessica Ai has been clamoring for this for years. She is the biggest underdog on this show. A +900 Valentina Shevchenko a minus 1375. What? Okay, now, do I think that Valentina Shevchenko is going to win this? Yes. And I think she'll do it fairly smoothly. Do I think that Jessica I should be a minus or a plus 900? I don't know that I'd put her a plus 900 against Amanda Nunes, Joe.
Wow.
It would be probably plus 600. Probably real healthy underdog there. Plus 900? She's not beating up mannequins out there, Joe.
Very true. Very true. But Valentina Shevchenko, in her last fight with Amanda Nunes, should have had her hand raised in victory. And we're talking about Amanda Nunes as the best female fighter on the planet. A little asterisk there. A little asterisk there. Valentina Shevchenko potentially is the best female fighter on the planet.
Yeah, real arguable too.
Yeah, and Jessica I is now fighting, quote unquote, the best female fighter on the planet. Yeah, the odds are a little bit wide, but Shevchenko will win. Should win this fight. I'm not gonna say will. I can't predict anything. So should win this fight.
I mean, I very well could have been cut multiple times from the UFC. She just had an insane losing streak, and she was fighting top-level bantamweights. Alexis Davis, Sarah Kaufman, Pena, Miesha Tate, Sarah McMahon. Not Bethe Correia. She doesn't count. She sucks.
Oh,
but my thing is, Jessica I has not finished anybody since, I think, Leslie Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And I think before that, it was Zoila Frosto. So we're talking 6 years.
Yeah.
I don't like it if it gets to the championship rounds for Jessica I. Maybe I'm wrong. But the thing is, I haven't seen her there. I haven't seen her there because she hasn't seen her there. She's never been past that. She's made it through 3 rounds and done just fine. But Valentina Shevchenko is somebody that we know can go the distance and has with regularity. Did with Joanna. Did with Amanda Nunes. Did with Holly Holm. So we've seen Shevchenko do it. She's done it with the greatest strawweight of all time at flyweight. She's done it with the greatest bantamweight of all time. And you could say 2 of the best featherweights of all time. Doesn't matter the weight. Doesn't matter how big they are. Valentina Shevchenko can make it work in the championship rounds for better or for worse. Just the trajectory that she has been on since that Holly Holm fight has been amazing. I can't say enough good things about Valentina Shevchenko. And hopefully that fight with Priscilla Cachoeira gets stopped in time for this fight to start Saturday, because I'm pretty sure that Valentina Shevchenko is still in the cage punching Priscilla Cachoeira somewhere.
So bad. That was a terrible booking, but anyways.
It was. Main event time. Henry Cejudo is actually the underdog at plus 110 against Marlon Moraes, a minus 130. This for the vacant UFC Bantamweight Championship. And dare I say that TJ Dillashaw, he was true to his word, Joe. He said he was going to kill the flyweight division, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he found a way to do it.
Correct.
He had to take EPO to do it, but God damn it, he did it, Joe. Marlon Moraes, Henry Cejudo. It's a hell of a fight, Joe, especially considering I don't know what switch just flipped in Henry Cejudo after the Demetrius Johnson fight.
Yeah.
But I kind of made light of that in the months after. That was shortly before Fight for Launch, and I thought that was an embarrassing performance from Cejudo. He clinched, or Demetrius Johnson clinched with an Olympic gold medalist wrestler, got taken down, said, "Nah, this ain't it," and then decided to spam knees over and over again. We just embarrassed him. Next time we saw Henry Cejudo, he should have beaten Joseph Benavidez. We've joked about that, about how I picked Benavidez, but he shouldn't have won. But his hands looked so good. And since then, I don't know that I've seen such a marked improvement from a title loss to another loss as we saw with Henry Cejudo between the Johnson and Benavidez fights. Like, that was, his stock increased with a loss after another loss. It was unbelievable, to the point to where we're talking about him becoming a double champion right here, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. Is that enough for him to overcome what Marlon Moraes can provide? We're talking about a 5'4" guy competing at bantamweight. Now Moraes is 5'6", I think. I don't know that the reach is that significant, maybe 3 inches. How do you see this one?
Well, let me ask you a quick question before I give you my final prediction here. In 2017, UFC 212, Marlon Moraes lost to Rafael Assunção by a split decision. Pretty sure you and I scored it for Marlon Moraes.
Yes, we did.
Therefore, he hasn't lost since 2011. It's 2019. That's 8 years. This guy is an absolute destroyer, and all things considered, his last 3 fights all ended in the first round. Aljamain Sterling, Jimmie Rivera, Rafael Assunção. I think Marlon Moraes walks away with the victory in this fight here, and I know Henry Cejudo did what he did to Mighty Mouse in the rematch, did what he did to TJ Dillashaw in his last fight, did what he did against Sergio Pettis. But TJ Dillashaw, you can say all you want about the EPO. Maybe we should start thinking about maybe that weight cut was really, really bad, and there was no fluid left around his brain, and he was susceptible to a knockout by a guy who punches pretty hard at 125 pounds. Now, take no stock away from Henry Cejudo's victory. Not saying that. I'm just saying just look at everything that's leading up to this. I think Marlon Moraes put some gold around his waist this weekend.